Hey everyone, my name is Ramtram, and I have been playing pumpkintd for those that don't know me since I think season 1, and I am also one of the beta testers who works directly with the creators and the devs, the coders on all the new content, which basically means that I've just mastered the art of losing in increasingly creative ways. Every time we drop a big patch like this, we like to put together a video walkthrough so you can see what's changed, what's strong, and just give you a general overview of what you should be looking out for. This is hands down the biggest expansion that we have had thus far, so I'll cover off on the major updates here, give you some of my thoughts as someone who has been testing this stuff hands-on. Let's go ahead and get into it. First and foremost, a couple things I wanted to cover off on there. The UI will look a little bit different here. There are a couple buttons at the top here for zooming. There's also a stats button here that shows you how much gold, lumber, how many towers you have. This can be useful, how many gold boxes you have. This can be really useful for some of the achievement tracking that you will need. But just be aware that this is up here now. We have also added this button here, the damage test, so there's not going to be any more typing -DT anymore. Now when the game finishes right here, you can click this start damage test. You'll have a few options here. You can either start it and it will do it as normal, or you can skip it and it will add I think 10k to your damage test. This is a quality of life change that we added because a lot of people are doing achievements and don't care to do the damage test because that's not what they're going for, and they don't want to have to sit through the tanks going through their maze. So you can see here that if I click skip, it will skip it. So just be aware that that now exists in the game. There's going to be a handful of other quality of life upgrades, but I want to cover off just like major section by major section. The first one here is going to be the shop rework. You'll notice on the map here that there is now a shop. You can purchase these items here from the shop. They are in a limited quantity. You can see I'm just using some of them now. Looks like I have to target a unit with that. So you can buy these things for gold and lumber from the shop here. This adds a new layer of decision making to the early and the mid game. There is a stun trap that works exactly like a stasis trap that you would imagine in Warcraft 3. There's a Frost Nova, works how you would think a Frost Nova would work, slows units. And there is a Pink Wisp as well, which I can hover over there if you want to read through it. I would say that those three are a little more niche. The biggest one is the gold box. There's 2 purchasable gold boxes here that you can place down for 125 gold and 10 lumber. This is a massive economy tool. There's only a maximum of 2, but a lot of the issues with when you started gambling and you were trying to get your economy going and you couldn't necessarily hit gold boxes, you were just getting unlucky. It sort of mitigates that bad RNG and allows you to start off your economy with 2 gold boxes. It's a little bit of a risky investment, like anything in this game, because you're essentially spending a bunch of resources on nothing, which is, what economy is. But yeah, this is a really cool addition to the game that I think is going to change the way that you, once you stabilize, you're definitely going to want to invest into these as soon as possible so that you can snowball with them. In the no gambling version of the game, there are a few other things that you can purchase as well. There are some auras, yellow wisps, pile of wood, which I think we'll get into as well in the towers section. But yeah, most of my perspective on stuff and my opinions on things is oriented around gambling, but just wanted to call that out as well. I think overall, just the takeaway on this is that this is sort of like a strategic safety net. I have definitely used this just to not leak a certain boss, or if I can't hit slow or something and you just need to stabilize around, it can be useful for that. But I think the most meta shaping thing is going to be the gold box here. Next major section I want to cover off on is the gambling rework. We have streamlined and balanced a lot of the gambling so that there are less RNG spikes and smoother gameplay overall. There is I think this is one of my favorite changes so far. There's a massive quality of life change I'm actually just going to spam gambling here for a second. The rewards now spawn in fixed areas, so you can see I'm just spamming gambling here. You can see the T6 towers, T4 towers that I won. Normally these would spawn in just like a random spot on the map, and you would have to like organize them, but now like all of your T4 towers that you won are in this spot. T5 here, T6 here, all your T2s there. Yellow wisps all stacked nicely. So it's just like you don't really have to like all the gambling boxes here. So you don't really have to do any work organizing things anymore. this was, as someone who's played the game a ton, was a ton of micromanagement and is a huge quality of life, so we just don't have to worry about it. Everything's organized nicely. This is a great improvement to the game, in my opinion. We also added a feature where when you start gambling, some players like to start gambling right away, and this is extremely prevalent in race mode, where on your first gamble that you hit, there used to be a chance that you could just hit a tier 8 tower out of nowhere and just completely run away with the game. We have added some barriers to that so that you cannot hit really high tier towers super early on. I think if you want to know the details on that, just read through the patch notes. You can see exactly where those unlock, but T6, T7, T8 are not going to unlock until a certain round. And then, at that point, you can start gambling for it. I think it's pretty early. It's like around 24, 30 or something. You can start hitting T8s. But if you start gambling super early, that's going to be nerfed a little bit. The other big note here on gambling in general is that the cost of gambling, I'll just hover over it here, is now 25 gold. It used to be 15. The lumber one is also 4. It used to be 3. We have compensated for that by making it so that the bust threshold is 10. It used to be 15. This just makes it so you have to roll a little bit less with your money and you're not just spamming the gambling button. I usually just hold Q, but it's still just like less pressing of the button when you have to press it. But yeah, the cost is a little bit higher, so it'll feel like you're gambling less overall, but it's just fewer button presses, and we've also tuned the rewards to compensate accordingly. So the math should math out about the same, if not like almost exactly the same. Beyond that, I think on the gambling note, 2 box changes I wanted to call out. One was a smoke box. This has been nerfed. It used to double resources. Now it only adds an additional 1 resource, and you also now need the spectrum box next to your smoke box in order for it to trigger that that debuff. So you can see there on the 4th one, I'm like pointing at the screen as if you can see it. The next change that we made is the lumber box. We slowed the attack speed slightly. This nerfed, I think there's just overall a nerf to gambling. We felt like it was a little bit too good, and there was really like no reason ever to not, like it was too easy to accelerate into your economy. So there's a little bit of a nerf to both the smoke box and the positioning, and your spectrum box and lumber box, but something to be aware of. Other than that, I think in terms of the gambling tooltips, in terms of how these percentages have changed, for those that don't know, you can log into the game and hover over these tooltips. The creators do an amazing job at updating these. These are always extremely accurate. It's very rare for me as a beta tester to catch them to have this being inaccurate. But yeah, you can hover over this and read through what the chances are to hit all of these things. I think overall the takeaway on gambling is that it is a little less profitable, but only because we felt like it was a little overpowered, so it's a little less busted now, but busted. But the farming setups in general are going to change a little bit, but I think more or less it's going to be the same stuff that you are used to. Gambling is still gambling. Next biggest change here is going to be armor. Armor is hands down one of the biggest changes in the game. You'll recognize some of the original armor reduction towers. I'll get into those in a second here. But armor now, as the rounds go, it will scale up on the mobs. This is something you just cannot ignore. It's going to be critical, especially for the damage test, that you are lining up every single piece of armor reduction with how much actual damage, more damage your towers will be doing by just having an additional like -2, -4, -8 armor on the mob. There's really no tower in the game that can outweigh how big of an impact armor has on how much damage you are going to be doing. Again, I think this is going to be most prevalent in the damage test, but even in the game, I guess it's noteworthy that bosses in general are a lot stronger now and are much more difficult to kill. We felt like bosses were like the easy part and the waves were the hard part. Once you stabilized anyways. So now bosses are going to be much more difficult. Having some armor reduction on the board will help you a lot. But yeah, overall, you are going to need to pay attention to armor reduction. It also affects all abilities, so any buff, any tower enhancement, Chirestia, Smokebox, it affects literally everything in the game, like as a multiplier. So again, armor is very, very important. There's one like on the Goblin Alchemist where he does like an AoE -4 armor reduction. This tower is so good. You can tell I'm a Slay the Spire player and a Magic player, calling them cards. Hearthstone, yeah, I'm a huge card nerd. The towers, I think most of the towers in terms of the armor reduction, you're going to recognize them. Lugia still reduces armor here. It has an upgraded greater Lugia evolution as well. The Destroyer, which I was just hovering over here, as a single target armor reduction. Von Hohenheim, it's the funniest thing to pronounce. He actually does not stack with the Destroyer. The Alchemist we already mentioned. The Elemental Lord, which I guess I'll just cover off on now. This is a new achievement in the game. This guy is 4 damage tests that you were going to need this guy. -8 armor is a massive amount of armor reduction. This is part of one of the new quests up here. I believe it is Special Quest 10, that you need to have 7 of the unique elemental towers. I believe there's a total of 10 here. And the reward is going to be you get this Elemental Lord for free. It's something where you're going to need to, we're going to get into achievements as well, but just be aware that this guy is a big change, and I think that any run where you were trying to do a big damage test, you have to pay attention to this, and make sure that you hit this by the end of it, because if you find yourself scrambling at the very end trying to realize that, oh no, I don't have -8 armor, -8 armor is going to be like, you're going to be missing like double your damage by not having that. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but 8 is a lot. Other than that, some stuff that you recognize, armor auras, you can still get minus up to 4 on the auras. And there is also a orange wisp. We've also added some stuff to the info sections. There's a lot more stuff around here that you can click through on. One of them is the wisp. You can see the wisp information here. The orange wisp has a -7 armor. It's temporary. It's actually really good in the early to mid game when you just like need to kill a boss. It's most often where I use these, but you can also save them for your damage test and use it there. The max armor reduction overall that you can have is 26. If you have the orange wisp, it's 33, but again, that's a temporary one. I think the takeaway overall on this is that all these debuffs stack, so you need to use as many as possible. Most relevant on the damage test, but also going to be relevant on bosses and pushing late into endless rounds when it starts getting really difficult, especially the AoE stuff. And it's also noteworthy that you can push armor into negative. So even if it only has, I think that the tank has, or the damage test has 15 armor, you can reduce it to like -11 armor. Next note here is slowing towers. So you'll still note that the standard slowing towers, like the Icy Elemental here, those are still going to slow by 45%. All of these are AoE, so it will splash everything around it, which is just a nice quality of life improvement. The max slow that you can get now is 97%, which is pretty much like a stun lock, and it's noteworthy that even in the sudden death round, it will still move at 97% reduced speed. You'll start to notice that when you're farming that you can get some of the mobs before they start getting really big speed increases to slow down to almost a halt, where if you time it and position it well, your gold boxes can farm. Like I said, it is almost a stun lock. There are, I think, 5 sources of slow. I'm going to cover them here. Any of the ice towers, none of them stack, so Icy Elemental or Aokiji or any of the gambling box here, the ice box, all of these do a 45% slow. There is the slow aura that stacks up to 20%. The Michelin stake has a 15% slow here. The Shadow Elemental, which is one of the tier 8 towers here, or tier 9 towers here, has a Shadow Strike that slows by 10%. And then both Ragnaros and Moltres have a 7% slow on their burn here. I'm just hovering over them if you want to pause on the video and read it, just to read it. So all of that adds up to 97%. Strategically speaking, I would say that slows are mandatory for farming and survival, like it always has been. The core combo, in my opinion, right now is the Ice Slow, the Aura Slow, and the Michelin Stake Slow. The Michelin Stake is a really big cast range, so it can kind of just like spam slow on all the mobs on the map and allow you to farm, which is really nice. I think the problem with the Shadow Elemental and the Ragnaros Slow and the Moltres Slow is they do have niche applications, and there's definitely things where you're going to use it for, but one of the problems is that when you are trying to like slow things down so that you can farm, these are, you know, tier 9 towers that kill things a little bit too quickly, so I don't think they're as useful for farming. But when we get into the tower section, you'll realize that there are some towers that really care about slow because it increases their damage. So More on that when we get into the towers section, which is the next one here. I think overall on this, slowing is not optional. It never really has been, and it's even more relevant now, and there's more unique ways to do it. Let's move into the towers here. There are a handful of towers that we removed. For example, we removed the soldier and added Kabutops here, which is actually, this guy's pretty relevant because now he's part of the Pokemon quest. We also removed Ice, Laser, Korean Melon, maybe another, I don't think so though. We also moved the vintage police car, has moved from tier 9 down to tier 7, so have fun, people who are stun locking with vintage car. I know there's some people who are doing that. Oh. Thank you. My wife brought me a whiskey sour because she loves me. I show it to the camera. It even has a cute little turtle on it. Thank you, baby. Where were we? New towers. In terms of new towers, we now have a tier 6 Earth Elemental. I actually really like this guy. He's a cool, like little mini stun that's really nice on, especially like boss waves. He's also part of quest lines as well. And has, since we replaced Laser, it's now part of the T6 quest, I believe, that gives you either the tier 2 guy, Light Yagami, or the extra gold. There's also Ice Samurai at tier 6. This is a new tier 6 tower that I think the most relevant thing here, outside of everything else, this is one of the towers that does more damage based on the amount of slows that you have, but he also has a swap, so when you like re-roll into this guy, you can just be aware that you can like use him for a quick swap and then keep re-rolling. And then lastly, this is the guy I think I want to talk about the most in terms of the new towers, is the Samurai Sensei, is a new tier 9 tower here. I'll just hover over the passive here, how it increases damage based on the number of slows. After testing as a beta tester on damage tests to try and see like which towers are doing overpowered amounts of damage, or I think even more importantly, the ones that are just not really doing anything, Samurai Sensei is hands down one of the highest damage output towers in the game. It's noteworthy that his range is very, very short, only 400, but if you can stun lock the tank and have him with full slows attacking with full pure damage, this guy's a monster. I also really like his short range as well. If you can keep him at the end of your maze here, you can allow the rest of your maze to farm, and then have a handful of these guys at the end just to finish things off with insane amounts of damage. He also has a swap, so again, if you're re-rolling for another T9, you can use this to swap as well, which is a nice quality of life change, I think, on adding some swaps here and there, because being able to move your board around is very much part of the strategy of this game. Oh my god, that whiskey sour is so good. Last thing to note on Samurai Sensei, Akainu's Rage does, it just mentions it in the tooltip, you can read the tooltip, but Akainu's Rage does stack with this guy, which is insane, 75% damage on one of the highest damage towers in the game. Again, this is a very cool hype tower that you should be aware of. Outside of that, on towers, I wanted to call out that the tier 2 towers have this ability to downgrade, and tier 3 towers as well. This has, we all agree internally, the creators and coders and beta testers, we all agree that the downgrade is severely underutilized by players, even at 50 gold. We have lowered it from 50 gold to 15 gold. This is definitely going to be clutch for certain rerolls or certain quests that you need to hit. Sometimes you realize you don't have a lava spawn and you just need to downgrade things. We did feel like 50 gold is a little too expensive. I personally feel that 15 gold is a little too cheap. But just be aware that downgrading already was something that I think most players were underutilizing, even very good players, and now it is reduced by 35 gold, which is just a massive, massive margin. The last note here on towers that I wanted to call out is... Oh no, this is not the last one, sorry. One of the other ones is a pile of wood. This is something that you can get from gambling, and you can invest wood into it to upgrade it. This works very similar to Garumi, where the tower itself doesn't really do much, but it upgrades into tier 5, tier 6, T7, all the way up to tier 8. And then you can re-roll it or combine it with something else to make a T9. It's just a way for you to dump lumber late game when you gamble into it. I think overall it costs 84 lumber, don't quote me on that. To get it all the way up to tier 8, so, and if you do the math on how efficient that is, it is a very efficient way, or one of the most efficient ways to get a tier 8 tower. Other towers, man. There's so many cool new towers, you guys. The one. This is actually one of my favorites right here. Is the tier 1 knight now has an evolution into the dame. I'm not gonna read this off, but you can see that it costs 10 gold and a couple wisps here to upgrade into the dame. The dame upgrades into the king's mage here, and I'll just leave that for a second. This guy seems insane to me. I really like this guy. It's unique 1, so I think it's going to be one of these like very clutch that if you hit knight early, that you're very much going to want to evolve into this guy as fast as possible to stabilize. This guy's max HP damage. He has a stun. He has a slow. He's a summon. He's the coolest motherfucker. Like I really love this tower. But yeah, I think in general that this is going to be something you definitely will utilize a lot in your early game. The next tower I wanted to cover is the Tinker. Oh my god, I love the Tinker. He has been nerfed a little bit since our testing, but I think he's still very, very good. So this guy evolves from the tier 1 stuffed goblin all the way up to tier 5. Noteworthy that tier 6 is that AoE armor reduction tower that I was talking about, but at tier 5 this guy's the coolest ability where you can it's on a 4-minute cooldown, so it's pretty long, but again, if you're farming and you're trying to stall things out and stun lock things and using 97% slows to slow the game down, you can kind of get this guy's passive to trigger more over time. And honestly, in the games where I'm trying to farm up as much as I can, which by the way there's an achievement for that, I think it's the Gallywix achievement or something like that. This guy is going to be very, very necessary to be farming as much as you can and using this on cooldown. When you use it, it deletes a mob. Obviously, it doesn't delete bosses or like the special creep buffing mob in Endless, but it'll delete a mob and give you 50 gold and 5 lumber. It is also usable after round 100, so after round 100, your gold boxes stop being able to farm. This guy, you can still use him. So like in the games that I was playing, I would end up with like 10, 20, 30 of these on my board, and I would put them like towards the beginning when their things were coming off cooldown. I would eat mobs as they're coming in, and then the rest of my board would be like farming. And yeah, this guy's just going to be a massive part of the meta game, that if you have the resources to be able to keep him on your board and use it every 4 minutes, this is just free resources. As we all know, the earlier you can start gaining resources like this, the faster you can snowball. So this guy's very, very relevant. We already covered off on the T6 Alchemist. The T5 Stitches, this guy's been buffed dramatically. I was sleeping on this guy. I had read the patch note that this guy had been buffed, but then I actually tested with him and I was like, shit, this guy's like really broken. So with the Ghoul upgrading into the tier 5 here, just be aware that if you're looking for some level of power spike and you haven't hit like a Knight or an Omegamon or something like that, that just upgrading this guy to tier 5, you'll have to play with him. But he has a disease cloud that works very similar to the one in Warcraft 3, still has his stun, but this guy's been buffed dramatically. I think this is one of the stronger towers for its level now. You've heard me mention it in previous videos, but Akainu, his cast has been reworked, and I think just like it's just a little bit better now in general in terms of how it works. Inuyasha is still one of the most powerful towers for its level, and this is actually one of the, I think, the biggest quality of life changes. Maybe not the biggest, but this one, I feel like too many boards just had too many, like it was, Bloodlust was too good of an ability to not have on your board. But since it used to have a mana cost and it doesn't anymore, and now this guy can just spam Bloodlust on your board. So essentially if you have this guy, every tower within his range is going to have Bloodlust. You don't have to build like 8 of them so that they can, you know, when they run out of mana, or you don't have to like micromanage it anymore. There's already so much to micro in the game that we felt like this was really tedious. Grim Reaper Myers is buffed better. You don't need to build as many of him. And I think in general, when you're looking at like end game damage tests and stuff like that, I kind of hated having to have a ton of my board be these guys just to ensure I had full uptime on Bloodlust. So this is a nice quality of life change, and I think will also just make for cooler end game boards. You're pretty tight on space at the end there anyways, so this is nice. Nerubian Tower here, noteworthy that this upgrades into the tier 9 tower for 700 gold. The upgraded version works very similarly to the previous, or the tier 8 version, except it scales off of tier 5 to tier 9. Maximum of 2 in the game. You are almost always, this is one of the highest damage towers in the game, especially for damage tests, but also even for stabilizing in the mid to late game. Something to be aware of. This tower is very, very strong. The Pokemon towers, I already mentioned that Kabutops was added, so it's a little bit easier to get your Pokemon quest done. Actually, just gonna hover over that at the top here. I believe it's this, yeah. So you need 4 of these basic Pokemon towers from the list. Now that Kabutops is in the list here, this is easy, much easier to do. It already was not that bad to do, but I think the biggest thing to call out on the Pokemon towers is that we have adjusted them. I am not actually sure which one is the best. The biggest thing that I want to call out for players is that the T7 Blastoise used to have a 2.5 second stun. People were keeping this at T7 because you could stun lock any number of things with just this tower, and that has been nerfed, so that you won't be able to just lean into Blastoise T7 for a stun lock. The damage on the others has been balanced and reworked a little bit with armor and whatnot, so I'm not really sure which one is the best. If you felt like Blastoise was the best in the last patch, you were not wrong, but these have been adjusted, and I am not sure which one is the best now. So these are all still very strong. Our goal is to have them be even, but have, you know, a little, you know, unique abilities on each one of them. I'm not sure which one is the best now, so play around with it, and don't just lock yourself in on one. I'd say just give it some testing. All right, I think the biggest changes there, we mentioned the Samurai Sensei, the tier 9 tower, the King's Mage tower that scales from the Knight, the Goblin Tinker is the new tier 5 tower that is extra farming, Grim Reaper Bloodlust is much more attainable now, downgrading is so much cheaper than it used to be and was already so good, and then a handful of towers that are just very strong for their level now between Stitches, Inuyasha, Akainu. Let's move on to Chrono. Yeah, go ahead. Chrono has been reworked, and one of the things that I really love about Chrono now is we now have these nice tooltips that tell you after the certain round and what boss you're killing, what rewards you're going to be getting from that. Trying to think where I want to start with this. I guess one thing that has changed is now you don't now you get Chrono tier 1 after killing the first boss, and you do have to place him to evolve. If you don't place him, he won't evolve. I think that generally speaking, when we actually did a full video on this a while back of like when should you start and stop gambling. I think in general the general rule of thumb is that this has not really changed, in that in every single game that you play, when you need to start gambling and stop gambling is always going to depend on how it's going, what achievement you're going for, how experienced you are with the game, how lucky you've gotten. There's just too many variables in play for there to be a strict answer for this. For example, maybe you stabilized really early, but you don't have a lava spawn tower, and you don't really have you're like almost at round 36. At round 36, I think it's on here. Yeah, this one here. Maybe you have like 1,000 gold saved up, and all you need is that Ditto to get your smoke box. Like, that might be the time that you do it. Other games, some of my best games ever, I have not started gambling until the 7th reward. So it really is very dependent. So I don't think that has changed. I think that it is smart to save up a bunch of gold before you start investing into gambling and giving up on Chrono. Chrono is very, very powerful, and you should use it to power spike. But usually having like 1k plus gold before you start gambling is still going to be like a general good rule of thumb here. I guess my last note, a big mistake that I see newer players make a lot is that they start gambling as soon as they feel powerful. That is not necessarily the time that you want to start. Like, if you're powerful, you should farm and farm and farm and keep staying powerful and save up as much gold as possible and collect as many rewards as possible so that you can like fully invest into gambling and scaling your economy after that. But yeah, a lot of new players will be like, oh, I'm strong, I'm gonna start gambling, and then they get then they don't get lucky, or just like normal RNG happens, and then they blame it on bad luck or bad RNG, and that's not the case. Like, they could have just been a little more patient. So if you're a newer player, I highly encourage you to lean into Chrono, and once you feel strong, like use him to save up a bunch of gold as long as you can until you feel like you can't go any further, and then get out of it and start gambling and scaling your economy. All right, quests. Let's get into quests here. Move some of these wisps out of the way because I will probably be referencing some of these. Special Quest 10 we already covered off on, but this is going to be a very relevant one. Gives you the Elemental Lord, we already went into this, so I'm not going to cover off on it too much. I think the one that I want to talk about the most, if not the only one I really want to talk about, actually, I do want to note that a lot of the quests have just been like adjusted very slightly, so you should very much just click through on these and see what's changed. For example, like Basic Quest 5 now gives you a tier 6 instead of I think it was a Winston or something like that. Tier 4, there's just some differences in these, so you should click through them, but nothing that I think outweighs the difference of Basic Quest 1 is totally going to change your openers in every single game that you play. We actually did a video on it a while back about the proper openers. There's, I think, doing like 3 construction researches and then building a tower and hoping it's a tier 3 is a very common higher in G1. Building 4 tier 1 towers is sometimes people construction research twice and do a 2 and 2 and then they build 2 towers. Now, I think with the change to Basic Quest 1, your opener is almost always, if not always, unless it's like maybe for specific achievements or something, going to be building tier 1 towers and not doing construction research until you hit this quest. This quest is a massive power spike, and it's not that hard to hit if you just build tier 1 towers. We also, a lot of the tech towers, we mentioned like Stitches, but you guys know about Omegamon. We already mentioned Goblin Tinker. A lot of these towers are very powerful. Oh, also the cat and the I almost said dog. The cat and the bear. A lot of these tech towers are already very strong, so hitting them early is very good. But the reward out of this is that you can choose between 2. The first one here is 100 gold, 1 white wisp, and a yellow wisp. And the second one is the one that I think that you will be choosing every single time, is going to be 6 lumber, a green wisp, and a yellow wisp. It is noteworthy that if you go down to this handy dandy tooltip section, the green wisp permanently increases the target's attack tower damage by 175. There are certain towers that you cannot apply this to. I think it's been nerfed on a handful of them. But if you apply it to a tower with a very fast attack speed, I think Garurumon is a big one here, and Grunt is a big one here. Also AoE towers like Troll Headhunters, very strong. Like if you look at Headhunter damage, it's only 10, but you increase it by 175, and also this is affected by the tower enhancement, the up to 50%. So if you can hit a fast attack speed tower like Garurumon with a 50% or a 40% or some high roll on that, this tower is going to stabilize you so hard that you can just like construction research, stabilize from there, start building, get your quests going, get your economy going, and sort of wait until you need to invest all your gold into gambling and scale from there. I don't know if I have anything else that I want to note on it, but I do think that this is a change that I really like because I like building a lot of towers early. I just think it's healthy for the game to not just be construction researching and then building only 1 or 2 or 3 towers, but rather having like a bunch of towers early. So I think this is going to be more approachable for new players. I think even for experienced players, you're going to have to figure out which of the towers are better or worse with the green wisp. In certain runs, you're going to get more or less lucky where you get it really quick, and other times where you keep getting the same stupid tower that you don't need over and over, and it's going to be really frustrating. But yeah, I think every single opener is going to be oriented around this quest, and you very much need to be aware of it and should start playing into that green wisp effective immediately. Achievements. I'll talk a little bit about achievements here as well. We added a ton of new achievements. These are designed to be extremely difficult. There is even now a Warlock achievement, I think on the builder here. Yes, on the builder here, you can see there's a little button, or no, it's not on the builder, it's on this one here, but it'll bring you down to the skin showcase section. You can click on any one of these and see how you unlock it. There's now an achievement to have every single achievement, which someone like me is going to love. If you're a completionist, you are going to love this. There's a new skin called Warlock that you need to have all the achievements in order to get this, and then you get it from gambling. These are tough, you guys. I have still not completed all the achievements myself. I think one of the harder achievements is one that I helped design called Spyro Wizard, where you have to complete all of the special quests in the opposite order. It's very difficult and requires insanely tight sequencing, and you will... I fucked it up so many times, just accidentally getting the Iron Man achievement before the other. It is so difficult to do, and that's not even the hardest achievement that we've made so far. So yeah, for players who like this kind of stuff, I do think that achievements are, and skins and titles and auras and everything, that this is the end game of Pumpkin TD, and we are not planning on stopping on increasing the difficulty of these and making this a very difficult, if not next to impossible, challenge for even the best of players in the game. I think the other thing on achievements that I wanted to point out is that there is another wave of rounds past level 60. We felt with some of the changes that we were making that it was becoming a tighter window to complete certain achievements before you had to kill the Titanic. So there's some additional new rounds past level 60. It's not a ton, but we felt like this would sort of help with that window, but so something to just be aware of. I think overall takeaway on this, I already covered off on it, but achievements I think are the true end game challenge mode content of this game, and completionists are going to be pulling their hair out on the Warlock achievement here. Race mode is, I think just one more. Yeah, is the last thing I wanted to cover off on. This is the most popular mode, so I just want to cover off. I think the changes overall are minor, but we did increase the minimum number of players from 2 to 3. We wanted to encourage group gameplay in this, and I think that that's one of the reasons why this mode is so popular, is because it's fun to play with friends. Starting life total has also gone from 10 to 20, so it's a little harder to die. And we are trying to incorporate some layers of preventing players from snowballing too hard. Now, if you were the first person to complete the round, you get a bonus 5 gold, but if you are not the first person, you get a bonus 10 gold. So it's a little advantageous to not just be killing things as fast as possible, even though that's kind of the pressure you want to be putting on people so that you can win the game. But yeah, we're trying to encourage bigger games, bigger gameplay. We're trying to prevent people from just snowballing and winning the game immediately, and we're trying to keep this competitive and fun overall. I think that's all I got. I think that's the majority of the large updates. The patch notes is like a book to read, so I am only scratching the surface on what I think is the most important stuff. Just remember that if you feel like you're bad at this game, I promise you that I've found dumber ways to die as a beta tester. Huge thanks to the devs for all of the work that they've put into this update. This is honestly like wild how big of an expansion this is and how much has changed. If you want to see more videos on this kind of content, specific achievements, strategies, even super niche things, breakdowns of certain towers, pathing, stuff like that, just let us know in the Discord. We are happy to put this kind of stuff together. I'm happy to give you to ramble and give you my 2 cents on how to improve at this game. But yeah, overall, I would say thanks for watching. Good luck this season. May the RNG be with you.